Hello, today I am doing the Do I Have That Other Book challenge. Recently I did the Do I Have That Book challenge. I'm not sure who created either this challenge or the original one, but as always, whenever I do a tag or a challenge, the questions are in the description if you would like to do this as well. The questions in this challenge are quite similar to the original. They're just questions about if you have a book that fits a certain description. So the first question is, do you have a book with a fox on the cover or as part of the plot? Yes, I do. I have Hideki Smith Demon Queller by A.J. Hartley. This is a young adult Japanese fantasy type of story. It's at the top of my TBR. Like, I will probably read this book within the next week or a few weeks. And there is a fox here. The sequel to this book was just recently announced. So I'm hoping to get to this probably by the end of this month. I will have at least started it. So I'm excited to read this. Question 2. Do you have a book that was published the year you were born or within a 3-year radius? I know I definitely have some within a 3-year radius, but let me see if there's one from that specific year. I know I've read some, but the ones that are coming to mind were from the library, so let me see if I own one. After looking, I either don't or it's one of the books that is out there. Most of my books are on this bookshelf, but I do have some in other places. But of the ones I can think of that are out there, I don't know if any of them fit this prompt, but I definitely have a bunch that are within a 3-year radius. So for that, I will shout out one of my favorite books I have read this year so far, and that is Just Listen by Sarah Dessen. I'm super excited to eventually make my video about my favorite books that I read this year. That is the video I'm definitely looking forward to making the most. Mochi has made an appearance. I guess I'll let him stay up there unless he decides to be super distracting. Question 3. Do you have a book with music as a weapon or magic? I don't think that I do. I can't think of anything like that I have. That's pretty specific. Question 4. Do you have a series with mismatched covers? So the main thing that comes to mind I think counts for this, but I will see if I have something else, because what I'm going to show you first is the kind of series that is just really not really a series, more of like a collection of books, but none of them take place with the same characters. I guess they take place in the same world technically because it seems to all just be on Earth. They're very contemporary realistic fiction books. So for this one, I don't feel that it's a very big deal. However, like I said, yeah, it is the kind of series that isn't really all that connected. I don't think it even has like the same characters mentioned in the other books. They're all their own stories, but they are all considered in the same group. You've probably seen books like that before. That is The First Love series by Beverly Cleary. These could all be treated as standalones, but they're all considered part of the First Love series. So I have the first book, 15. It's got this nice cover that's got, this certain design. There's the author name on the bottom and a symbol in the middle. There's the book, The Luckiest Girl, that's got a similar design. And then there's Jean and Johnny, and that's very different. I'll put on screen what the cover for Jean and Johnny looks like that fits in with the other books. I don't know why I ended up getting this one. It doesn't really bother me though. These books are quite old. I mean, these are newer editions of them, but I think that these are newer editions than this one. I don't know. I got them all on Amazon, and I guess this was the version that they had for this book. These are all young adult contemporary stories by Beverly Cleary that all involve some kind of romance. These aren't the books she is most known for. However, I read these a few years ago and I remember really enjoying them. I did have the fourth book, Sister of the Bride, but never ended up reading that one, and after a while decided I don't think I'd be interested in reading that one, although I did enjoy these books very much. And these books are all from the 1950s. Okay, so this is sort of an example of this. The covers match, but the spines do not. And this is an example that bothers me a little more. I'm not going to go out of my way to get new copies of these books. Even when the copy I have of a book isn't my favorite cover, I don't really mind. I care about the books and the words within them. But anyway, I am talking about the Willow Fall series by Wendy Mass. This is another series that I read a few years ago, specifically 2019, and I really enjoyed this series. However, as you can see, some of the covers do not match. We have the first book, 11 Birthdays, and the spines actually, these spines go over to the side, and they're just these dotted things that say wish on them. Finally has that same thing. This one's kind of festive, at least. 13 Gifts does not. This is the original cover. The Last Present does not have that thing, and I much prefer these spines. They're more unique to their own individual books, and I just think they look better. And then the final book, Graceful, does have that wish spine. So wish is like, I've seen that on different books from different authors. I think it's not a specific series, but I also don't think it's a specific publishing company or anything like that. I think that some books just get categorized as wish novels. They seem to be more female audience oriented, middle grade girl novels. Those seem to be what are considered wish novels. I don't know why they're considered that and why some of these covers I have, even when I got these all around the same time, are these, but others are not. I mean, I got them individually, I didn't get them in a box set, but yeah, I much prefer the spines that do not have the wish spines. I think that that takes away from its original pretty spine, especially when the rest of the covers are the same, so I dislike that a bit. And then with some of my series, like my Diary of a Wimpy Kid books and my Harry Potter books, some of them are paperbacks, some are hardcovers, and that doesn't really bother me. Like with Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the first 12 books I got in a box set. It was just cheaper that way, so I got them that way, and since I've been getting the hardcover editions, I don't really mind doing it that way, especially when the books are not bought all at once and I'm getting them over a period of time, and then maybe I find an opportunity where something is cheaper. Chapter 5, do you have a book with a shapeshifter? The first book that comes to mind when I hear this prompt is, well, he's just making himself comfortable, is Eclipse by Stephanie Meyer, the third book in the Twilight Saga. I know that's a pretty basic, popular answer, but it is what comes to mind because Jacob is technically a shapeshifter. I believe they are shapeshifters, not werewolves. There are werewolves in this series, but that is not what Jacob actually is. So I think that applies here, and I just don't read a lot of books with shapeshifters. I don't read a lot of fantasy at the moment, so I am going to say this. Plus, I did enjoy this book. It was my favorite of all the Twilight books. He's just chilling. You may not be able to hear, but he is purring pretty loudly right now. I think he's happy. Question 6, do you have a book that is signed by the author? I do have one. It is out there. I'm gonna go get it. Okay, I thought that the book was easier to reach than it was, but I think it might be in the cabinet where some of my books are, and that cabinet is currently covered by a bunch of things like boxes and I think a table, and yeah, it's not very easy to access. I'm gonna have to figure something out with that so that I can reach those books. But I have recorded it previously, so I can show you photos, and that is The Art of Littlest Pet Shop by Prescott Nathan Hill. And I got that signed at LPSCon, a convention specifically for Littlest Pet Shop lovers. He did the art on the packaging of old Littlest Pet Shop products, and more recently has returned to the brand. I met him at the convention and was able to get my book autographed. I had already had the book. I just brought it to the convention and got it signed, and here's a photo of me with him. Question 7, do you have a book with a mostly red cover? I would say my copy of Rebel Rose by Emma Thierio is mostly red. This is the first book in the Queen's Council series, a series of basically not exactly retellings or reimaginings, but more of continuations of Disney princesses and their stories, and all the books are kind of connected. I've only read this first one, which is about Belle from Beauty and the Beast, but yeah, this is a mostly red cover. Question 8, here's one that I think is really fun. Do you have a book that has between 287 and 306 pages? Miss Bixby's Last Day by John David Anderson has exactly 300 pages. Great book, by the way. Question 9, a book where the main character wears glasses. With this one, like with the Do I Have That Book challenge, I'm trying not to say the really big, popular, obvious ones like Harry Potter and so on. But if they're the only option, then I will say them, but I'm sure I've got something else where this applies. Yeah, looking at these books, there actually don't seem to be many that apply to this. Well, we might have to go with Harry Potter because at least I know that one for sure. Question 10, do you have a book with a title that has the same number of letters as your first name? I'm sure I do. Yeah, the first I looked at and counted, I was right. Trinity by Tom DeLonge and AJ Hartley. That is a 7-letter title. Question 11, do you have a book where there is a cybercrime or technology as an important plot point? At the moment, I don't read a lot of books like that, and I'm gonna say no, I don't think I do have one. Question 12, do you have a book written in another language or translated? I do have a lot of manga, and those absolutely count as books. Those were originally written in Japanese. But I want to see if there are any on this shelf. Yes, I do. I have Heidi by Joanna Spiri. I'm not sure how the author's name is pronounced, but this was originally written in German. Question 13, do you have a book written by an Asian author? So for this one, manga comes to mind again. So yes, I do, but like with the last question, I want to see if I have any on this shelf. If I don't, I know that I have a lot of books on my TBR that are originally by, I think, mostly Japanese, if not completely Japanese authors. Maybe some of them are Korean. I know some are Japanese. So there are definitely some on my TBR. But as for on this shelf, let's see. So after looking That I know of? No, I don't think so, but I do have some manga. I have all of the Fruits Basket books, all of the Death Note books, so we'll just say those. Question 14. Do you have a book with a moon on the cover? Yes, I do. On the cover of Poet Anderson and Darkness by Tom DeLonge and Suzanne Young, there is a moon as an eye. There are a lot of cool things going on this cover. I really like this cover. I recently read the first book in this series and sadly did not like it as much as I was hoping I would. But it was still okay, and I do still plan on reading the sequel. At least it is a little shorter, but it will probably be a while before I get to this. But in the meantime, I do really like the cover, and have since before I even got a copy. But yes, there is a moon there, and I really like how it blends in well with everything else going on the cover. Question 15. Do you have an illustrated children's book? Yes, I do. Now, I don't know if this specifically has to be like a picture book, or if it could be a children's chapter book like Charlotte's Web. But if you do mean like a straight up picture book, then for that I will say The Lonely Astronaut on Christmas Eve by Tom DeLonge, because I think that definitely fits that description. Question 16. Do you have a book that is a collection of myths or fairy tales? I don't think I do. I don't think I have any books that are collections of short stories or anything like that. Question 17. Do you have a book that is a fantasy or sci-fi that has an alliance between different races? I don't think so. I mean, I do have a few fantasy and science fiction books, but do I have one that has an alliance between races? No, I don't think so. That's another really specific one, but I'm sure some people, especially people who read a lot of speculative fiction, will probably have an answer for that. Question 18. Do you have a book with a narrow front cover, which is a paperback where the front cover is trimmed slightly shorter / narrower than the rest of the pages? I know I had one at one point, but not anymore. That or it's tucked away somewhere, I don't know. As for if I still have one, no, I don't believe I have one anymore. Question 19. Do you have a book that includes the first chapter of the sequel? I know I have some books that include an excerpt from another book by that author, but it'll be like another standalone. But I will see if there are any books that have any excerpts from a sequel. Yes, I do. An Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. There is an excerpt of the sequel. Momentous Events in the Life of a Cactus. There is at least the first chapter. Is there any more than that? Oh, there are the first 2 chapters. Yeah, that's cool. Momentous Events in the Life of a Cactus is actually one of the books I am reading at this moment. Question 20. Do you have a book with a broken spine? Well, if by broken spine you just mean like... This one's kind of dark. It's kind of hard to see. But you may be able to see there are some lines that have become visible. It's not as obvious as it is on the Harry Potter paperbacks. I feel like those you can really see, but I don't know if that means the spine is broken. I think it does. When I hear broken, I'm just imagining like absolutely come apart, but I don't think that's what it means. I think this counts as a broken spine. So yeah, that applies to a lot of my books. I don't really go out of my way to not do that. If it happens, I think that's just a sign that the book has been read and loved. But I also don't really go out of my way to purposely crack the spine. Like, it just happens in the process of my reading it. But I'm also not super careful for it to not happen either. Lastly, there is a bonus question, and that is, do you have a book that covers 3 or more of these prompts? Let's see if I do. I looked through a few different books to see if I have an answer to this bonus question, and it's possible that there is a book that fits at least 3 prompts, but I really don't feel like going through every single one of my books and seeing. So it's possible that I do, but maybe not, but this is just a bonus question anyway. Thank you for joining me and Mochi apparently on the Do I Have That Other Book challenge.